Hi everyone. Now, don't you find it weird that the press go on about how hard the royals work? As the New York Times put it last year, the tabloids seizing on these statistics every January pit the royals against one another like prized greyhounds. Anyone else in the public eye gets judged on what they do and achieve, not on how many times they turn up and meet some people. But this is royalty, and royalty is weird, so let's face it, there's not much else we can judge them on. But apparently the royals would rather we look at their real work rather than count engagements, but I have no idea what work they're talking about, so the engagements is all we've got to go on. Now, like the charity work they claim to do, this is often about trying to justify their existence and wealth and keep the critics at bay. Now, sadly, we expect so little from the royals that any claim to be working hard is usually met with applause. It's not all positive, of course. The annual list of royal activity also prompts headlines of work-shy royals for those at the bottom of the table. But the reality is that they're all work-shy, demanding millions of pounds for very little in return. But of course, this isn't reality. It's royal reality, where hard work consists of travelling somewhere, shaking hands and going home again. So let's be honest, they don't work hard. You know that, I know that, we all know it, and quite frankly, they don't really work at all. When they talk about working hard, they are referring to the number of official engagements they do in a year. Now, a typical engagement, turning up at an event, cutting a ribbon, or meeting business leaders, for example, will last about an hour on average, something Prince Charles's office confirmed when I wrote to them a few years ago. Last year, Prince Charles was judged the hardest working royal. In 2019, he did 521 engagements, both here and overseas. That's 521 hours of work. If we assume a typical working day in this country is 7 hours, this is the equivalent of Charles working 74.5 days last year. An average full-time worker would do 240 days in 1 year. 74.5 days is equivalent to approximately 4 months of full-time work for the whole year. For that, we allow Charles a personal income of more than £20 million a year, or about £38,000 an hour. And yes, you heard that right, Prince Charles gets the equivalent of £38,000 an hour for spending a third of his time meeting people and shaking hands. Now, that's 3,140 times the average hourly wage of the UK's key workers. A huge number of those engagements are held at home, whether it's Clarence House in London, Highgrove in Gloucestershire, or Balmoral in Scotland. A lot of those not done at home are still held within a fairly short distance of those three locations. And don't forget, he doesn't do full days or weeks of work. These 521 hours at home or nearby are spread across the year, leaving him with weeks and months of leisure time and time to pursue his own interests. Now, royal engagements are listed on the royal website. A lot of them involve just turning up and looking at something, or watching a film or game of rugby, for instance. Then there are the occasional military, religious or royal ceremonies and honours ceremonies. So here are some typical hours of hard work Charles put in last year. The Prince of Wales this afternoon visited CCM Technologies Limited, IO Centre, Hobley Drive, Swindon, and was received by Her Majesty's Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire, Mrs. Peter Troughton. No idea what he did there, apart from shake hands and say hello. His Royal Highness this evening received Mrs. Rebecca Spate, Chief Executive of the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. Okay, so he met someone for a bit. It's pretty tough going. The Prince of Wales this morning received Major General Sir Benjamin Bathurst, General Officer Commanding London District and Major General Commanding Household Division. So I guess that's just a chat over tea. His Royal Highness, President of the Royal Ballet, received Mr. Christopher Rodriguez, Chairman, Royal Ballet School. Again, nice chat over tea perhaps. Here's one. The Prince of Wales Royal Founding Patron Turquoise Mountain Foundation this afternoon held a meeting. Okay, that's a charity Charles set up. It's not a meeting that's held as an official duty, unless of course he's conflating official duties with personal interests, which I'm sure he would never do. I mean, that's unthinkable. That one is immediately followed by this other one. His Royal Highness later held a meeting for Waitrose Duchy Organic, which is a private venture between Waitrose and Charles's own charity. Again, that is his own personal business. It's not an official engagement. Then there's the Prince of Wales, Duke of Cornwall, this morning held a meeting for the Duchy of Cornwall. Okay, but he claims that's a private estate, so why is that listed as an official engagement? It's all very confusing and conflated. It certainly isn't hard work on behalf of the rest of us. Anyway, you get the idea. This isn't work. It's meeting the great and good, charity leaders, and pursuing his own interests. None of this requires any physical or intellectual effort on the part of any royal. Everything that is planned and provided for them, all they need to do is turn up. There's no accountability, no expectations of performance standards, no worries about getting a bad annual review, no worries about redundancy, unemployment, or whether you can put food on the table. Now, you might think that I'm being a little bit churlish, but I don't really think so. I mean, why aren't we holding the royals to the same standards as everyone else? Why do we tolerate the dishonesty and graft of this work-shy family? And why do we listen to their claims of hard work? They don't work hard. You know that, I know that, we all know it. As I said, Charles was crowned the most hard-working royal last year, so here's what the rest of them were up to in 2019. So the Queen did 295 hours, which is approximately 2 months of full-time work. Camilla, 224. That's what's that? About 1.5 months, or 6.5, or just under 7 weeks, actually, according to this little table I've done. Prince William, 220 hours, which is 1.5 months. Kate did 3.5 weeks of full-time work equivalent. Prince Andrew, 274, which adds up to just under 8 weeks, so about 2 months, I guess. Prince Edward, 308, which is just over 8 weeks, so about 2 months. Sophie, 236 hours, which is 1.5 months. Duke of Kent, just under 6 weeks in the year. And Princess Alexandra, no, me neither, 60 hours, which is just under 2 weeks in the year. Now, all of these people have public subsidies in one way or the other, whether it's from the Queen, whether it's through the grant, whether it's security, whether it's accommodation. You know, they are all subsidised to some extent by the taxpayer, and in return they really do very, very little. Now, royalists have told me many times that because a monarchy includes the whole family, they can do so much more between them. But the reality is they don't. I mean, add these figures up, take out Harry and Meghan, who have obviously left and gone to live in the United States, and you see that between them, the remaining 13 royals do fewer hours than 2 full-time workers would in a whole year. And you know I'm right, because you and I know what hard work looks like. Going into work, answerable to a boss, often having to do boring tasks we'd rather not do, and getting home to a world of worries about money, mortgages, rent, childcare, healthcare, and so on. And then turn up the next morning to do it all again. Now, with a bit of luck, you have an enjoyable and fulfilling job, but I'm betting you don't get millions of pounds from the government for working hard several hours a day, 5 days a week. And of course, according to one report, particularly people who are self-employed or who work in the hospitality industry or in agriculture work many, many hours more than your average office worker, and thousands of hours more than your average member of the royal family. So when we think about nurses, teachers, call centre staff, farmers, or anyone else, we know that's what hard work is like. For the royals, it's a life of leisure, punctuated by trips to museums, cinemas and ceremonies. No serious work, no pressure, no consequences or concerns about whether food will be on the table when they get home. So maybe, just maybe, the royals and their supporters can give it a rest when talking about how hard the royals work. Now, why does this matter? Because it's all part of the Emperor's New Clothes mythology that helps sustain support for the monarchy. And it's dishonest, offensive, and quite frankly ridiculous. Support the monarchy if you like, but let's not pretend they do real work or hard work. Now, don't forget, Republic is running an appeal to raise £12,000 to fund more video and podcast work. You can find out more and donate at republic.org.uk/millions, and we'll be able to reach millions more people right around the country and the world. Take care. Bye for now.